I can see myself. Apparently I've been there for a few seconds.
Oh, I can't see you yet.
Yep, you should start to see me soon.
There we go. I'll prompt it myself. There we go.
Well, my usual greeting isn't showing up. Wait a minute.
I can see you.
Yeah, but my chat window is weird.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Ophelia Oracle says hello.
Okay, there we are. I guess I'm going to have to check that out. My chats are not showing up. Why is that?
I don't know. I don't know why I can't hear anything either.
Okay, there we are. I'm going to have to do it this way. Apparently whatever is going on doesn't show up that way. Okay. Hey, Ryder. Hi. Hi, Ophelia. Nice to see you guys here. Can you hear me? I guess is the question of the hour, the moment. Charlotte says hi. Hi, Siofra. Hi, Siofra. That's me. Hi, Charlotte. I tell you, apparently my brain is just gone. Yes, they can hear me. Okay. That's what we wanted to know.
It's just this stupid thing again. It's like last time.
Well, actually, we're doing interesting. There's always something going on. I did a an answer on a paranormal site. They asked like, what was your potentially most scary paranormal experience, and so I shared the experience I had with the two-headed dragon, and the moderators and the admins got together and decided that I had a bad trip, or it was a dream, and I clearly had a very vivid and good imagination. So I was like, wow, okay then. So that was kind of entertaining that I discovered that. Writer says to Ian, how are you?
I'm doing good. I have to restart my browser, so
He's going to be missing briefly while he restarts his browser. So, the other thing is that with all the stuff going on here, ended up with an interesting discussion with a hedge druid, and brings up a lot of questions about women's issues, women's rights, and people's different attitudes towards that kind of thing. Thuza says hi, Siofra, and everyone, hi Thuza. Yeah, so it was sort of an interesting morning. Doing a bunch of research and responding. I have very strong feelings about women's issues. If people disagree with me, that's fine. They can just stay away from me when they do. So that's kind of how I feel about that. So yeah, it's just all that stuff. But, and because I was apparently in such a state last night before I went to bed, I had a weird face I forgot to tell you about. I saw an angry face. It was an angry male face. And I think it actually was David, who was a former partner of mine from when I was channeling. And I saw this face and it was just all kind of thing. And I'm like, no, I don't let angry faces in my room. And I went like that and made it go away. I said, you can show me colors, pictures, nice faces, nice smells are fine, but no angry faces, so go away and leave me alone. So, whatever it was went away. And I'm thinking it was a memory that was somehow activated by the weird conversation I had with the druid person. We are definitely different. Karmic Justice says, hey guys, how's it going for everyone? And Mia says, hi Siofra, hi Mia. My granddaughter's dealing with stuff after the healing we did on her. Not the healing itself, but other things in her life. So she's going through a bit of a rough patch right now, and she's with my daughter today, and they're figuring out some logistics and stuff that she needs to figure out. So So that's interesting anyway. Life continues to go on regardless of how much good stuff you might have in your head. It's just the way things are. So I was really tickled that she let me use her as a demo, because, you know, I talk about how I do that kind of healing, energy healing and stuff, but it's difficult to explain just with words. And so coming at it with the actual, you know, the way I physically set up and how I arrange that kind of thing, seems like it was time to do that, because I've been getting a number of questions on the subject of energetic healing and protecting yourself and so forth, and how do you get, why there is echo. So we still have an echo. We don't know why there was an echo. We were trying to fix that earlier, so we're going to have to do a private thing later and see if there's a setting in our software that's causing it. So we apologize. And Joey's,
Yeah, I can hear it too from here, but we can't hear it from your computer. It's not doing it only after the streaming, so.
okay, so we have some things to figure out as far as that goes.
I'll get rid of it as soon as I can.
We're sorry. Computers, technology, yay. So hi Joey. So yeah, we're just gonna have to, at least my voice is clear, so that's that. Mia says, Siofra, you Irish? Yes, I am. And so is Ian, actually, is Irish. We're both about 50%, I think.
50, no, not even.
You don't think you're 50%?
I don't think so, no.
I am, pretty much. As far as, like, the general vicinity goes. But yeah, I am definitely Irish. It's one of the reasons why I picked Siofra for a name when David started writing books about me. And I needed to have a public pen name or whatever for the material. And so I picked Siofra Bradigan for that. Basically means spirited elf. And because of my Irish ancestry and my people coming from the west coast of Ireland, from Sligo County, is where our relatives are from. And my grandmother was raised by her grandmother there in Ireland. So we have some recent contact with it. A. Bondarenko says, can you give an advice? Depends on the question. So if I know an answer, I will tell you, but if it's like a psychic reading, it's probably a not.
Yeah, ask a question.
See what happens. I talk about what I know about. So I guess we'll wait.
That's the most annoying.
How to get over a breakup? Well, that is a difficult answer, isn't it? Because there's so many different factors. It depends upon how the breakup happened, whether you feel like still attached to the person, or whether it's like self-worth issues that you're going through, you know. A lot of times when a relationship breaks up, there's a lot of self-recrimination where people look at what they've done and decide they did something wrong. And then sometimes they're just seriously attached to the partner who wants to leave and are having trouble letting go. So from like a magical perspective, the things you can do would be to separate your energy from the person who left. And, you know, you can do candle magic, or you can do cord cutting kind of stuff in order to separate your energies and that kind of thing. You can also do therapy and work on your self-worth, and if that's part of it, and get some assistance with that. We often project a lot of things onto the other person. Okay, so A says, my boyfriend works too much. And that's what caused the breakup? Not getting enough attention or enough time to spend on the relationship? Maybe not the right partner? You know, it's like a lot of times we end up with the wrong partner because we have an idea in our head that we're trying to match. And when we meet people, we try to make them fit the idea in our head, and we don't see them for who they really are and for what's really going on. So that's a possibility. A says exactly.
See if this helps the echo at all. I'm just trying to experiment.
Okay, he's moving my microphone to see if that helps the echo. Taylor says, hello everyone. Hi Taylor. But yeah, I mean, I lucked out. A says, not enough attention and time. And if you know, if that's what you need from a relationship, then it's not the right person, you know. So what you can do though for that is learn how to spend time with yourself, so that you don't need to have someone else necessarily to spend time with in order to feel valued and appreciated and that kind of thing. But certainly anyone in a relationship wants to know that their partner's got their back and is there for them. I mean, you know, Ian and I spend plenty of time together, but he also has time by himself and I have time by myself. And so it's not like that type of a thing where it's an issue. Of course, he's not working, so that helps. I'm working, and he's staying home and working on himself. So circumstances vary so much. That's all there is to that. And life is complicated. Nothing is simple and straightforward. I was talking to my granddaughter about this and realized that, you know, my daughter wants her to have love from someone else and feel that love and acceptance from someone, and thinks that she deserves it, which I agree with, but my daughter's never experienced it herself, so she doesn't know what it is. And that was an interesting revelation. So we've had some good talks with my granddaughter this past week about it being okay for her to be here and everything else. So yeah, it's been interesting looking at that kind of stuff and realizing my granddaughter's never been in a conflict-free environment in her life. This is the first time she's been in a household where people aren't fighting and where she doesn't have to worry about what she's doing, what she's saying, and if she's in trouble and all that other stuff. So hopefully it's giving her an opportunity to get to know herself a little bit. So if you're not with the person anymore, take it as an opportunity to get to know yourself and work on expectations and self-worth and that kind of thing, so that when you do meet someone, you can meet them as a partner and get a good match, so that there's like a balance in there. So Jacqueline says, hi, been a while since I made a live show, so yay, Jacqueline, you made it. And Mia says, I remember one day I was standing in the courtyard of my grandmother's house and heard two voices from the front of the veranda. Okay, I'm assuming they were air voices. Okay, they were unpleasant, and I didn't understand anything what they said. How do you think what it was? My mom heard them too. Well, you could have heard some spirits talking. I mean, I wasn't there, so it's hard for me to know. You mean things like that happen occasionally?
Yeah, I've had some very realistic stuff happen with, like, for me it's mostly at the beginning of a dream state, but I heard somebody talking out the window and I would have sworn they were there, but there wasn't anybody anywhere nearby.
Okay, so A says, so what should I do? Come to terms or leave? We still love each other, but it's a torture. Have you thought of couples counseling? That might be an option to find out whether there's something to build on there and whether there's a compromise. And if you still love each other and care for one another, compromise should be something that your partner is willing to do. If not, then it seems to me the choice is clear. Because who wants to be with someone who doesn't want to be with them, right? It's like, it doesn't make sense. Writer says, a holiday. Yeah, it's a holiday. Over here, it's a holiday. Is it a holiday over there too? Yeah, so I don't know. I don't like telling people what to do with their own lives, because part of the experience of being here is making our choices and then living with the consequences and learning from our experience.
Well, plus which, even if you know somebody really well, it's still really hard to tell them, you know, what's going to be right for them.
Yeah. Mary says, hi, so glad to be here. I just came in while you were all talking about Relationships, I think. I've been helping my ex-psychopath's new fiance get away from him. Oh, awesome! Because now he's abusing her. Well, that would be predictable, wouldn't it? So good for you for helping her get away from him. Philippa says, can sympathize with your granddaughter. I was in conflict-filled environments my whole life up until 11 years ago. When I finally got away from the aggravation, I was still waiting for it to begin. A says, it's so hard. Well, it is hard when you care about somebody. And also change is scary. Unknown future is scary. And a lot of times people will stay in a relationship because they know the rules and, it's more uncomfortable to change things and go into an unknown, uncharted territory than it is to stay with something even if it's not something you want. That kind of thing. Felipa says, in my new home too, it was too quiet and that made me uneasy. It'll take a while for your granddaughter to adjust. I hope she's okay. Yeah, I think she's going to get there. The other thing she's facing right now are financial situation that she's in. And she wasn't here when that happened, so there may be a lawsuit coming. We'll see what happens with that. So Jacqueline wants to know how your tummy is feeling.
Well, it's feeling better. Actually, I was going to type a response, but I might as well just say it. So, yeah, I'm still having issues. I've got 2 weeks to go before I see a doctor. And I just found out that kratom helps with my pain relief. So, overall, it's making me functional, whereas I was pretty much bedridden.
Yeah, mostly. For the last week, 10 days or so, it's been bad. Yeah. Well, yeah, I came from a lot of conflict, as you know, from my childhood and relationships and stuff like that. When Ian and I first got together, I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. Every time he said something like, I have something really important I need to talk to you about, and I'm like, that's it. He's breaking up with me. That's the end of this relationship. We're not going to go any farther. There's nothing else I can do. And then he would say something sweet and wonderful like, you're the most amazing woman I've ever met. I could never imagine anyone like you. You're better than anything I could have imagined and stuff like that. And I think for the first 10 years or so of our relationship, every time he gave me a compliment, he always did it at lunch in a restaurant. I would burst into tears because I was so not used to having anyone value or appreciate me at all. And so it was a very emotional thing. And when we hit 5 years, 5 years was the longest I'd ever been in a relationship up until then. And so I kept waiting for something to happen. It's like driving home from work and I'm thinking he's having an affair, but I'm like, but I know where he is all the time. He doesn't have time for that. And I finally realized it was an anniversary kind of thing. And so I told him, I says, okay, here's what's going on with me. And just be like extra loving and extra kind for the next few months. And when I get past this whole anniversary thing, things will calm down again. And so that worked. So yeah, that was like way, way funny. But I know. So Jessica says, hi Siofra, I watched your healing video earlier today and was wondering if there's a way to learn and practice healing when you're someone who's fairly isolated. Well, I mean, you can practice it on animals and practice it on yourself. There's always room for improvement for ourselves, and healing ourselves is one of the things we should focus on, because if we don't work on ourselves, then, we end up with a deficit, energetically speaking. You can watch the other video I did on healing that talks about some of the energy healing things I did. I actually watched that video before I made the demonstration because I was trying to figure out how to approach it. This is why I decided to do a demonstration instead of trying to do another talk about it, because healing is about touching people. So hopefully you have some people that come into your life here and there, but if not, that's what I would do. I would learn to work on yourself, and learning how to separate your energy from other people's energies. The better you know yourself, the better a healer you can be, because then you can experience what they're experiencing instead of what you think they should experience, that type of thing. So Mary says, how is COVID where you all are? Is everyone you know staying healthy, I hope? COVID has exploded in our area. We are one of the worst counties now in the state. And we've lost another few people. Our hospitals are becoming full. And it's there's so many people here who don't believe in vaccinations. I went to a massage class for my license, where I have to get a certain number of CEUs, continuing education credits and stuff for my license renewal. And they were handing out a piece of paper recommending how much ivermectin, which is the horse dewormer, to take when you first get symptoms and what the dosages should be and all this other stuff. And I was kind of astonished that other healthcare professionals were doing that. I considered it a violation of our licensing thing, but anyway, that was weird. But yeah, we're keeping safe. I'm waiting to find out whether we're supposed to be getting a booster shot or not. If we are, I'm due to get one in October, and then December would be when everyone else in the family gets one. I was like first because of my job as a massage therapist. So Jessica says, I live alone, and due to the pandemic, I've only seen a friend twice this year. Family all lives several hours away. No pets to help me practice as of last October. Any way around this? Well, let's see. You could try working on plants and trees. You can go outside, commune with nature, try to get in touch with healing spirits and healing energy that way, connect with the ground. It's like, if you don't have anyone to do healing on, it's hard for you to become that kind of a healer. You have to wait until this is over and there's people around again. And so, just don't worry about it and use this opportunity to get acquainted with you. It can be a blessing. When I lived up north by myself, that was the first time I'd ever been alone. Of course, I was living with my kids, but they would be gone, during the day for school and whatnot. And so I had an opportunity to be alone, really alone, for pretty much the first time in my life. And that's sort of what I ended up doing, was a lot of sitting under trees and whatnot. So Mary says, Kratom helps me when I have had sciatica too, which is good. Canary says, hello everyone. Hi, Canary. Philippa says, yep, when you listen to other people's conversations, waiting for their voices to rise and the shouting to begin, the only shouting in my house now is me yelling at the kids to clean up. Well, I guess that's good.
I used to yell at the computer occasionally.
Oh, yes, he had some funny stuff with the computer. He actually recorded himself yelling at the computer and made that a computer sound. So when things weren't working, he was yelling at himself, yelling at the computer. It was funny. Like, hey, God damn it, hey! It was like back and forth. I was like, I just was in stitches when that happened. So he changed that sound pretty quick, but yeah. So, Melena. Okay, I'll go with that. Hello, Melena. Mia says, do you have a familiar? I have spirit familiars. I don't have a physical familiar. I have two spirit animals that work with me on the other planes. One is a bear and one is a panther, a black panther. And they've been with me since the early 80s or mid 80s. Well, actually, I think before I moved to Santa Cruz, so the early 80s, that they came into my sphere or what have you. And I adopted them, they adopted me, or something like that. But, they can be an actual physical animal. Ryder says that Canary, hello, was hoping you would show. Just Jonathan now, and the whole gang is practicing here. Yeah, Jonathan's taking a break from the show. I haven't seen him on the last couple of weeks, so I'm not sure when he's coming back. Canary says, or Philippa says hello to Canary. Jessica says, very helpful, thank you, I'll give it a try. Canary says at Ryder, I'm sure he will be back at some point. Nice to know I'm wanted. Canary says, hello, Philippa, nice to say hello. Jacqueline says that Ian, glad to hear you found some relief. Jessica says, I'm amazed they would advise on a drug like that. There's a reason everything needs to be prescribed by a doctor. Yes, I was flabbergasted and angry, and I just sort of sat there and I thought, really? And it was a local doctor who sent this out? Yeah, I have this, my personal opinion is he should lose his license, they should lose their license, everyone should lose their license if they're going to suggest something that could be dangerous. I mean, if people decide this on their own, that's one thing, but to have a professional to, add their voice of authority to it makes people more inclined to do something that they might have been on the fence about, and so I consider it seriously unethical. So that's like that. So Desideradum says, could you please tell us about your wand you use for paranormal investigations? What is the wood? What is the sequence of stones? I'm thinking about making a mala that can do the same type of thing. Okay, that is my banishing wand that you're talking about. It's from rosemary wood. And I'd have to go get it and look at it. But I have a yellow quartz at the top. And I have, the stones I used were like, I think I added some black tourmaline, and I didn't have jet when I made it originally. I put in some, I think I put in some carnelian, and I put in probably some ruby stones. I'll have to look at it and get back to you, or you'll have to watch the video where I go through each of my wands, and then you can see what it is. But the interesting about that wand is that at the end of it there's an extra amethyst that is a crystal that sticks up, and I wasn't sure why I put that there until I started to use it, and the negative energy gets sucked into the wand and then circulates around the wand like that and doesn't come into me. So it protects my energy field from, because this is a different kind of wand. This is not a projecting wand where I'm like taking the energy and pulling it into myself and then projecting it out into someone or something or working on doing. But this is to pull that energy in and then to later take that out and ground it in the earth and let the energy dissipate and clear the wand. So it's a different kind of wand than my other ones. But I also use a long piece of selenite in my paranormal work, because selenite is something that the spirits can see. It makes a bright light on the other side. And so I've used it sometimes to help spirits get out of a location that they don't belong in, because they can see that and I can pull them with me. So I have two different things that I use for that. So Mia says, my mom can heal too. I remember times when I had a pain in my stomach, and when she put her hands on it, I felt fine. Awesome. Writer's laughing at Ian yelling at the computer. It was pretty friggin' funny. Desideradum says, also just learned about the concept of a spiritual battery. You've talked about fluid condenser, which may be similar. So a fluid condenser is something you can use to charge an object up and help it to sustain a charge. So I think you could use that for making...
It's kind of like a spiritual battery.
So you can use it to make a spiritual battery.
Yeah, well, it'll hold, since it's universal, it'll hold whatever energy you want to put into it, so...
That must be the wind that's banging the door.
I don't hear any door banging.
I did. Everything looks normal out there?
No, everything's fine.
Okay. Must be the wind. Or some spirits knocking on the wall. Mary says, can you explain a familiar versus an animal friend? So, the idea of a familiar is that it assists you in magical operations. Now, you can have a pet, and it can just be a wonderful pet for you to encounter and so forth, but not trying to help you do magic. And a familiar is like different. We did meet a familiar that was a cat at one of the pagan gatherings before COVID hit, of course, that we went to. And this woman took her cat with her everywhere, and it participated in the ritual. It actually was there in the circle and was walking around and doing things. It was actually pretty amazing. So I believe that that was an actual familiar. Of course, the concept of the familiar was something sort of taken over by the church as a way for the devil to assist you. They sent you an animal. It was almost always black, so a black cat, a black dog, a black goat. And then that was the way the devil communicated with you and gave you the power that you needed to do stuff. And I think you fed it off of your own bodily fluids, blood or something, to keep it going. So I don't think that's actually what we mean when we say a familiar at all. But certainly a reason why there's a lot of lack of black animals out there, because they didn't fare well during the insanity that ensued during the burning times. But a spirit familiar is there basically to protect and assist you in spiritual matters, and my spirit animals will show up when I'm doing meditations. If they think I need to stop doing something, or they want to assist me with doing something, they will show up. And when I was like walking down the roots of the world tree in the earth, my panther stepped in front of me and blocked my path, which made it pretty clear that I wasn't supposed to go farther down. So they have access to other kinds of energies and information. And then they also protect me, like if someone is thinking harmful thoughts in my direction, they get agitated, and I'll suddenly notice I have like a panther pacing back and forth in the bottom of my bed, going back and forth in my room, and the bear will be growling and whatnot. So they give their pretty clear signals about what they think is going on, or if there's a hazard of some kind. So they also can act as personal protectors and that kind of thing. So my dear Salt says, I'm part of your imagination, I'm not actually here. Well, good that you have a computer then. Desiderata says, Ian, maybe there's a way to do exorcisms on electronics. Ryder says it, Mary, good question. My dear Salt says, here's a joke. Why did the frog lose their car? Because it was towed. That's ironic. My granddaughter just had her car towed last night. So good synchronicity there. Ian's responding. That was when he was using Windows. Canary says, I try and listen to understand everyone's perspective because I always think you can reach people, because I used to be highly religious, and look at me now. But these days it gets harder and harder. Yeah, I have a bit of a theory about what's going on around here. I mean, if it is true that we are supposed to be evolving spiritually, one of the things that they expect is that we're going to be able to read one another's minds, and if everyone could read everyone's minds, it would mean the fall of civilization and society as we know it. And that actually seems to be what's going on, not necessarily as a mind reading thing, but people have completely disconnected from that ability to stop themselves from just saying anything and everything that's on their mind and just spewing it out there and thinking first. So it's kind of weird. It's a very strange time to be in to see that. But it is telling us who people really are and what they really feel. And yeah, they could potentially change, but apparently you can't change them with words. They have to kind of do that on their own. And it's a process. So Hyperion says, this divorce I'm going through is very complicated. We are waiting for separate apartments to open up, and my family is so horrible to me that the ex feels the need to look out for me. Well, I'm sorry that that's happening to you, and I'm glad that your ex is trying to stand up for you. That seems like a good thing. Unusual. Desiderata says, I watched the video on wands, but wanted to know the exact sequence. You created something really special. Oh, again. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll look for my wand and I'll try to remember all the different stones.
Do you want me to go get it for you?
Well, you could. It's in the big vase.
Okay.
Between my altar and my corner cupboard is where I keep most of my wands, and it's got a big yellow crystal on the end of it,
Okay.
like a pointed crystal.
And this is the wand for
the banishing wand.
banishing wand. Okay.
Yeah. So maybe I can just tell you and show you when he
Be
gets back
in
with
a
it.
few.
All right. Writer says at Desidratum, I was reading an article the other day. Apparently Lucifer has learned how to write and send text to people that are apparently very mean. Okay. Well, I mean, what would they expect, right? Hyperion says, I used to always hear whispered conversations in my mom's back acre. You know, there's so many people that have lived and died everywhere. Who knows? Or sometimes, like, you know, an area can be thin through time. I mean, I've done investigations, like, at a local facility here, it used to be a hospital, and when we got to what is now the waiting room, or was the waiting room, they shut the whole place down at this point. I could hear a music box, like a children's music box, and you know, and I was at another investigation where I could hear a radio playing from like the 40s, from what I was hearing, and in the room there was no radio. There was no radio in the house, and so you know, there's certain times and places where there's an energetic thinness between times, especially in places where traumatic events have taken place, like battlefields and stuff like that. There's some Civil War battlefields where people can still hear and see, you know, the activity, what's going on, because so many people died so violently, so quickly, that it sort of leaves an imprint. So there's always that possibility, and also as our clairvoyant and clairaudient abilities develop, we might hear conversations that are going on that may have been going on around us for a long time that we just never tuned into, and it might be occasionally that we tune into it, but not, you know, all the time. So yeah, there's that. Philippa says, speaking of wands, I went to the beach a few weeks ago and found an 8-foot long driftwood, and I managed to fit it in my car to bring it home. Thinking of reducing the length and making a staff. Probably make a nice staff. I think my staff was actually originally a piece of driftwood. Yes, that is the right
I
one.
like this wand.
It is a nice wand. So he has returned with the
Nice
wand.
colors and stuff too, that rosemary in there.
Okay. So let me get this up close enough. I can look at it. Yeah, okay. So this is the quartz. I ended up with a 2-prong quartz because well, it fit perfectly on the wand because it's got that extra little prong on there, so it made it a really nice, easy thing for me to attach. And the other one had a yellow quartz as well, but it was smaller. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have, okay, there's 5 of the ruby matrix stones. One of them is very pink, where the others are mostly green with a little bit of red dots in them. But 5 is a good number for protection, and 5 is the number for Mars and the pentagram and so forth. And then there's a piece of lapis right here. Then I have a piece of black tourmaline in its raw form, so it's like, you know, that way. So you can see it's attached there. And then below that, I have tiger eye, carnelian, tiger eye, smoky quartz. Boy, the light in here. Another tiger eye. Then the amethyst that's standing up straight. Yeah, with another tiger eye down here. And so this is a pretty large piece of rosemary. This rosemary was probably about 8 or so feet tall when it suddenly died, and I think it, like, you know, died to protect my house kind of thing. And so when I harvested the wood, I decided it was time for me to remake my vanishing wand, because the original one was made from rosemary, but it was a very thin one. Oh yeah, and up here at the top I have a ring of lapis and a ring of black spinel. That's black spinel right there. So that's what I have up there. So that is my banishing wand, and the way I use it is I point it at whatever the thing is and suck the energy into this end. It comes in here to the amethyst and then scoots back around and sort of circulates through all these different stones and stuff. And then I take it and put it in the ground and ground it out. So that's what I ended up with. Thank you for getting that for me. So, Canary says, does anyone have any experience with psych-chem training? I am doing it on Saturday. I don't know a lot about it, but I'm doing it because I was drawn to it. I've not heard of it, so I don't have anything.
Yeah.
So you can let us know how that goes. And, you know, always keep your wits about you no matter what kind of training you're going to, because, you know, self-will and everything else is part of that. Philippa says, I did go back to the beach the following day and made an offering to Yemaya, and I'm not sure if I spelled that right, rather than just taking. Now, I think you did spell that right, and that's a good idea. So, good for you, especially since she's an ocean goddess. Mia says, how can I find out exactly this animal is my familiar? Well, you sort of do it by experience. Like I said, you can have an animal that's not a familiar, and it's just like a wonderful pet. So there's always, if you ask anybody on one of those sites, you'll get a lot of yelling and screaming and arguing about it.
Basically, though, it was part of lore that a witch could, like, see out of the eyes of her familiar, specifically things like that.
Sort of like Beastmaster.
Yep, pretty much.
Or the kid
really,
in
yeah.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, and that they'd have the ability to come back and tell their masters the secrets that they've heard, you know, that type of thing.
I always thought that'd be kind of cool. Canary says, I have 2 kittens. I don't think they're familiars. My old cat definitely was. They're very self-aware as much as a human. I really do long for that connection again. Yeah. Desert Autumn says, I'm not sure exactly how a spiritual battery works and for how long. Not sure how to make them either. Just learned about it conceptually. Any advice?
Well, I was going to go get one that Menorah can show. Basically, what you want is something that collects a particular energy, but one of those things, I've got a Vajra, but it's back in the house, so I'll have to go get it. It's a type of spiritual battery for exactly that. So, for Menorah's benefit, because I know she's heard of this, it's like the idea of a Vril stone.
Right, the Vrillstein.
Vrillstein, yeah, and that's
a German word for a battery, often made out of a stone, but doesn't have to be.
This is made for a particular type of energy and stuff, but I'll go grab it.
We're keeping it busy, so. So Canary says, I have a spirit wolf that will growl if there is someone intentions are untoward. Good. Always good to have that. And Hyperion says that Kratom helps my back too, which is awesome. My granddaughter is the one who turned us on to it. She had to get some for herself because she's on a specific medication she ran out of and she's going through withdrawal from that medication until she can get in to see the doctor and get back on it. And I guess the Kratom helps her withdrawal symptoms while she's waiting to get to see the doctor, which of course, it's a long weekend here. So Tuesday is the first day she can do anything. Desert says, Ian, maybe that big chunk of black obsidian could help. I cleared an attachment off my phone with obsidian. Watched too many paranormal videos and something attached and kept draining the battery. Ha! Interesting. Well, I think that black obsidian is definitely a good idea for that. That would work. Philippa says, thank you to Ian. That's a relief. It was only after one of these YouTube lives recently that I realized coyote is spelled as above and not Cyote. Thank you, Ian, Desram says. Lucifer is fully sentient, everyone, so not surprised it's using electronics. Philippa says, I hear radios playing when they're obviously not, and recently heard a woman yelling and screaming as if she was in pain or distressed in my home. Definitely not outside.
Vajra for the male energy, and the bell for the female.
Okay, so You want to say more about these?
I'm still learning about them, so not too much specifically, but the idea is that they're just holders for that energy. Load up the male one with the male energy and the bell with the female energy, and those two energies are not, I guess male and female only works within a certain reference point. You'd rather use, how about expanding energy, which
And
is the male part.
contracting.
Expanding energy and, yes, the contracting or receptivity. So the bell symbolizes, among other things, receptivity.
It's a nice loud
sound.
bell.
I like
Nice.
it, yes. And so the male one, the Vajra, is projecting force. So if you want to project something out, you'd use the Vajra. And if you're trying to pull something in, you'd use the bell, just as that's a very simple overview, and there's a whole lot of depth to the symbolism. But I don't know it very well yet, so still working on it.
So Hyperion says, Hands-On Chaos Magic by Adria Vitamus is a great read for the isolated magician. So Philippa says, how are the crystals attached to your banishing wand, please? I can see the wire. Are the crystals drilled like beads? Yes, in this case I used beads so that it was easier for me to do. And except for like the piece of black tourmaline, which was a chunk, and the piece of amethyst, which was another chunk, and the quartz crystal, which wasn't beaded. So yes, I used wire to attach them. And rosemary wood has these nice indentations that are naturally occurring in the wood. And so, you can like stick your bead in an indentation and do it that way too, depending on, they're not all lined up like all my beads are. So obviously with this one, I didn't do a lot of that. But it's one of the things I like about rosemary wood is there's all these little cubby holes and stuff. Alice says, hey guys. Hi Alice. Canary says, I'll let you all know about the training. I asked my Reiki master before I signed up, and yes, it's definitely a thing she didn't know that much about. But she says it's definitely a thing. Okay. Yeah, one of the things that we just finished watching today was the Netflix documentary on John of God, the famous psychic healer in Brazil. And if you haven't watched it, I recommend it. It is eye-opening. And yeah, not a fun watch in particular. May have a lot of triggering for a lot of people.
Yeah, he was very abusive.
So Alice says, is there any events going on in the Pacific Northwest that you guys will be at soon? No. They've canceled everything in our community. So we're not having there's 2 fairs that have been canceled and a run that has been canceled. So nothing is going on in our area, and we don't at this point feel comfortable going to another area to attend anything until we get farther out of this. Right now, Oregon is in bad straits. Because of our isolation out here, it took a long time for COVID to get to us. And like for the first 6 months, we hardly had any cases at all. And I think people sort of got this idea that it was never going to arrive. And now that it's here, even, we could have prevented a lot of this if people were willing to take the vaccine, but they weren't, because we were like, there's a huge anti-vax movement in our community. And so when the Delta variant arrived, there were so many unprotected people. It's just been spreading like wildfire. And the last time I looked, we had over 1,000 known cases of COVID, and we only have 74,000 people in our community to start with, and that's like in a 2-week period. So that's a lot. So sorry, not having any events. Desert Doradum says, Tiger Eye is an iron-based magnetic kind of thing. Thank you so much for going through that. I'm thinking about making a mala recite Dorji Shugden's mantra. He's a Dharma protector who deals with that. Well, and yeah, there's a lot of good things with rocks. Mia says, my pendulum said I had a familiar, but I never saw him. Well, maybe he's invisible, and you need to know how to see him. So keep looking and waiting. Writer says, they do say to allow the battery to drain right down every now and again, as it overall extends the battery lifespan to keep it fully charged all the time could shorten battery life. I guess that's about, not your battery, but Desiderata had a battery that kept draining, and you missed that part, a piece of black obsidian to clear out the attachment because he'd been watching a lot of paranormal videos on his phone.
Yeah.
And it seems to have fixed his problem.
Sorry I did that.
Yes, you did. Desiderata says, love the tools, especially love bells, except if they start ringing on their own, then holy shit. Is that why you did that?
Yes.
To have them ring on their own? You are a scamp. You really are. Wow, sounds scary. Desiderata says, thank you, writer. My phone battery was draining faster than I've ever seen. Technology, isn't it a wonderful thing? So yeah, so that the documentary about John of God was startling, to say the least. But along the same lines as almost every other type of cult out there, cult of personality that turns into a breeding ground for predators. And that certainly seems to have been no exception. I think by the end, they had 330 or more women
Something on that order,
who
yeah.
had come forward
And complained.
to, charge him with sexual abuse. So, and it's weird because, like, in the beginning, it would appear that his gifts were genuine, and I mean, he seemed to actually heal a bunch of people. I guess the question becomes, were these powers working through him regardless of his lack of morals and his ego? Or were the people so believing in what he could do that they were manifesting that and making it happen? Or was it a combination of these two things? It's sort of
it seems like all those
interesting.
cures came early on, though. I don't know for sure. We haven't seen any evidence that he actually was able to cure people
Later
on after, the entities may have left him. He was channeling an entity, basically.
Supposedly. Yeah. And so, so Mia says there is Maybon soon. Yes, there is. It's coming up. And I think there's going to be a full moon just before it on the 20th. I think the 20th, your appointment is on a full moon.
Oh, well, I don't know.
And the 22nd, I think, is the equinox.
I just hope we can get somewhere and it doesn't, delay things for another...
I hope so,
weeks or
too.
months.
We're doing everything we can. Of
Yeah.
course, with COVID, they're not doing certain kinds of surgeries right now, so hopefully this is not one of those that falls into that category. Since you don't need to stay in the hospital, it's a day surgery, I think that you would be outside of that issue. Alice says, that's wild. I love these kinds of documentaries. Hyperion says, my grandpa always found arrowheads. I think his land was on native ground.
Yeah, they find a lot of them out there towards the Lava Beds National Monument, too, which was Captain Jack's stronghold. That's in California, just over the Oregon border.
And around here as well, because when Jade was going to school, she had an archaeology class, and they actually went on some local digs where they were looking for native artifacts.
Right, well, I heard they used to find a bunch of stuff around in Medford, Table Rock, but the whole time that I lived there, I never saw anything. I lived in Medford for most of my upbringing and that, but never found any, so they had already been searched out.
Yeah, I think that happens a lot, especially with the number of people that are out there nowadays. Except for now. With COVID, people aren't going out there so much. Maybe not a good time to go look for stuff out in the middle of the woods, except they're closing the woods because of all the fires, so never mind.
They won't let anybody in the woods.
That's because people are stupid and they're starting fires, and it's unbelievable that in the middle of a drought like this, they're starting fires.
Yeah.
And
But it's like, I live over here on the coast, and we can't go into the woods. It's like, no, can't go into the woods and do anything.
because it's a drought.
Well, you can't use them in the summer. You can't use them in the winter because it's just totally raining most of the time.
So Desideratum says, oops, wait a minute. I think I missed one, it jumped. Alice says, I know how respectful you are of other cultures and beliefs, even if you don't necessarily believe them yourself. That's refreshing. Well, thank you for noticing, because, people's beliefs, I judge people by their actions, not by their beliefs, because there's so many different kinds that are out there. So I think it's a better criteria, because then people get into a fight about, who's right about this and that. Hyperion says the shadow people in that area were very native in how they moved, especially around fires. I had a few encounters, like I remember we stayed once at a lake, and in the night I actually saw a group of natives coming down to the lake and building a sweat lodge, and then singing and drumming and doing a sweat. And I thought, well, that's interesting, because there's no evidence of that there now. And so the next day I talked to the local ranger, and he confirmed that this was one of the sites that they used in the past for sweat lodges. So that was kind of interesting. I liked that. Random stuff just comes around all over. What is the song that you have listened recently? I was listening to Greta Van Fleet. I really like the lead singer's voice as far as new songs are concerned. So I was showing that to my granddaughter, introducing her to another new group that she may not have heard. And she thought it was pretty cool, so that was kind of nice. Our song or music tastes are very different. She uses her music for processing, and it's kind of like intense and a little bit dark, but it works for her, so not something I would want to listen to. Writer says, at Philippe, I'm the same with my laptop, need to make sure it's always charged. Hyperdon says, Wand Maestro. Well, yeah, that's for sure. I have a lot of them.
Monstro.
Wandstro?
I always like combining words. What can I say?
Yeah, I know. But yeah, so Nisha says, hi all, joining briefly during my lunch break. Love the video you posted yesterday, Siofra, of you working on your granddaughter. Yeah, I was happy that she let me do that. She definitely got pretty emotional there a couple of times. And I haven't done that particular style in a while, so it was interesting for me as well. Because at my office, everything's already set up, and I just sort of do that kind of stuff automatically without thinking about it. Although I have discovered it can be dangerous to do that kind of energy work on a client in a massage setting. I had a client I was working on one day, and I thought maybe I should look in a deeper level, and see if there was something I could find that I could help. And I saw the blackest heart I've ever seen in my life. It was the most horrific thing I've felt. And I had trouble working on her from that moment on, because I'd seen that. And then she eventually left me as a massage therapist because I wasn't doing the work she wanted. After I saw that, I had a hard time going deep, because it was like, I didn't want to see that again. It's like, stay on the surface, and I think she noticed. So, yeah, you can sometimes learn things you don't want to know.
Yeah.
So Alice says, when I first moved to the Pacific Northwest, I had a dream was going to marry off to a native chief's son. Neither of us wanted it, so we ran away together and went our own way. Ever since that dream, I have not enjoyed it here. Luckily, I'm moving soon. Well, I'm sorry that a dream ruined your enjoyment of the Pacific Northwest, because there's some wonderful stuff in the land around here. Maybe it was a past life memory. That maybe it happened here in the Pacific Northwest, and could be interesting. Elzeram says, Siofra, if you saw them doing a sweat lodge, they may be sending an invitation in a way. If you have a chance to do a sweat anytime soon, I'd connect with them if they allow. I've done a number of sweat lodges. When I was up in Canada, and I went to the Medicine Wheel weekends 4 years in a row, I was always in a sweat, at least one, sometimes two. They actually told me I could build my own sweats at that point, because they'd given me the basics, and they said that there was no reason why I couldn't do my own, so I did. I actually built my own sweat lodge on a river outside of Terrace that was not far from my house. It was this really pristine little corner around the river. And so I constructed it and went out there, and we did a few sweats there before the river rose and took the sweat lodge away, which, that happens. That's why you build them out of natural stuff, so if it goes away, you can start over. And then I've been to 2 different sweats on Mount Shasta with Charlie Tom as the sweat coordinator before he passed. in Panther Meadows, Mount Shasta, and Ian experienced his first sweat there. The second one I was at was
Yeah,
with
I'd
Ian.
love to have another one at some point.
And they are very special. There's no doubt about it. So Hyperion says, I have a spider friend that reincarnates and comes back. She waves and does a hello dance. Never thought of a familiar, but my Charlotte is my best friend. Well, a familiar can be any kind of an animal. It doesn't have to be, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
And, you know, like spiders have all kinds of interesting things that they can teach us. And about persistence and ability, you know, because the webs that they can weave and stuff are pretty incredible.
What runs around here will jump at your face from a tree.
We have some jumping spiders apparently in our area that go like, oh look, a person! Boom! Yeah. So a way for us to go. So Johnny made it. Hi, how you doing? Alice says hi, John. Mia says hi, Ian. Are you a witch?
Well, I guess that comes down to a matter of definition. I'm perfectly willing to do everything a witch will do, but I do a whole bunch of other stuff too, and I am not formally initiated into witchcraft through the 3 initiations.
Well, neither am I, but I'm definitely a witch.
Yeah, I would say yes to that in general, but I do a whole bunch of other stuff too that witches probably aren't interested in.
Same here.
Yeah.
Since I do some of those stuff with
Sure.
you. Not all of them, but
Well,
some of them.
Yeah.
Okay, so Johnny says, may have missed this, but what is a familiar exactly? It can be an animal, physical animal, or a spirit animal that assists you in your practice of magic and so forth, and can be a guardian to help protect you or warn you about things that may be coming and that kind of thing. Some people have physical animals that they consider familiars, like cats and dogs and stuff like that. And then there's a huge argument online about whether that can be true. But to be accurate, in the beginning, when Doreen Valiente was writing her books about the subject, and she was Gardner's high priestess, she said that a familiar could definitely be a physical animal like a cat, because she has had some herself and met other witches who had them as well. So the people online who scream that that's not true and that can never happen apparently aren't educated enough to know the actual source of the information and why we use the term. So research is always a good idea to find out more. I was actually reading one of Doreen's books on witchcraft when I came across that while I was in a forum that was yelling about familiars and what they were and weren't. So, yeah. So Hyperion said, Alice thought that was an adorable thing that you have a spider that comes back. Hyperion says, I thought spiders just liked me, but a couple of them come back. I didn't realize it, but she died a couple of times awkwardly recently, and she found her way back to me. It's like, the universe is an amazing place, and there's so many different things that can actually happen. Felipa says, I was scared of spiders until I moved to my current home. We have so many false widow spiders in here and many other types of spiders, and they are so drawn to me, they walk all over me. Not scared now, I think she meant not sacred. That's a good twist, though. I like the difference between scared and sacred. It's just a matter of order. How fascinating.
Thank you, writer.
It's cool you guys do things and share things together without one partner thinking the other one is a complete baddie nut. Oh, yeah, no kidding.
The trick is we're both the same type of baddie nut.
We just have slightly different baddie nut interests, let's say. Felipa says, not scared. Autocorrect, yes. But hey, sacred is a cool word, so, whatever. Alice says, writer, I agree, love the respect. Yeah, when I was talking to my granddaughter about the whole relationship thing and, how her mom doesn't know what a non-conflict environment is like or that kind of relationship, she pointed out that he was unusual. And that I found myself a good one. I said, well, there's one, there must be others. That's what I'm saying. There's no reason why there can't be other people that are just as cool as my Ian, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And that's the thing. I mean, I did the video about power, you know, the structure of power over, power under, and power with. This is what power with looks like. Exactly what it looks like. And we don't have that kind of a structured relationship where someone has to be over and someone has to be under in order for things to be balanced. The reason why we can't be balanced both at the same time.
Absolutely.
Mia says, yay guys, I'm happy I found your channel. Well, I'm glad you found us too. And Felipa says, my spiders are sacred. No one is allowed to move them, especially to remove them. Okay. And we all have our special things, you know, that we feel connected to. And, you know, that's kind of the cool thing about life and everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah. So what do you guys want to talk about now? I think I'm out of juice at the moment, temporarily. Having fun, but I have nothing else popping up into my head right now. It was kind of funny being thought of to be batty, though. Hyperion says, yes, even stubborn wolf spiders chill when I talk to them, right? Wolf spiders are pretty big, I understand. Oh, humongous.
Of course, I believe a bat may be part of one of my power animals also.
Yes, he's had encounters with bats that sort of go beyond the normal bat encounters, like broad daylight's swooping around his head.
While I was swimming in a reservoir.
Yeah. Donnie says, Ian's interest in Indian spirituality, I'm the same way, so I love his videos.
Well, thank you.
Felipe says, I love wolf spiders. Me and spiders are just kind of like, at this point. But certainly there are plenty of stories about spiders and magic and their webs. I love seeing pictures of their webs. Somebody managed to take a picture of a web with the sunlight just right, and it transformed the web into a cascade of rainbows. It was just spectacular. It's the best shot.
That was cool, yeah.
It was awesome. Writer says, when I meet someone new, potential partner, I test the waters a little to see their response, and I'm a batty nut. I know it's not going to work out. Well, you know, one of the things I like about him is he always insisted on me being myself, and, you know, for an empath to meet someone who is not willing to take any projections that, you know, because that's one of our natural defenses, is to project what other people are wanting to see, which helps us to hide and stay safe. And he wouldn't let me do that. So I had to be me. And that was the most amazing gift I think I've ever gotten from anybody, was being able to be myself and be seen as me for the first time. So that was pretty awesome. And I would like everyone to experience that. I wish there were enough people like him so everyone could experience that. Okay, so bats are just night puppies with wings?
No, I can't.
Desert Rodham says, how would you connect a spiritual battery to a home protection spell? What would you use? A mirror?
You could, yeah. That would be probably one of the easiest.
I'm thinking
methods.
a magic mirror,
Yeah.
not an actual reflective mirror, but
Yeah, you put the fluid condenser on it, on the back of it, or on some paper, which you then soak up in the paper and then attach to the back of it. And that makes a spiritual battery, which you can then use for your purpose, but you have to charge it up
to
with
start with.
whatever. Yeah, so
Yeah.
go ahead, you can.
Well, you can create it in such a way that it automatically continues to charge too, after you get it started.
Yeah, and basically you want to charge it with the home protection idea. And when you get into it farther, you can decide whether you also wanted to charge it up with like an elemental energy or a planetary energy, and exactly what type of energy you're going to put in the battery and then you basically program it with willpower to do what you want it to do.
You can also use a stone for that kind of thing. Home protection stones that are pretty common are like obsidian, smoky quartz, and that sort of thing. So you can actually make a battery out of one of those and then lay it on the floor and then have other ones around the house to connect to. And you can get it really good, well charged by, repeating the process like either once a week or every day for a while, and then after you've got it really set, you can do it periodically whenever it comes to mind and you think, oh, maybe I should check in and see if that's still working and charge those guys up to keep happening. So there's a lot of, creativity in the potential for that, because you can turn about anything into a battery, a magical battery.
Yeah, using using the fluid condenser helps because it helps absorb the energy and suck it in and makes charging things up easier.
So Felipa says, I had a telepathic communication with a European hornet nest last year, or hornet, not a nest. I won't go into detail and probably couldn't put it into words, but my relationship with insects has totally changed. Mia says, now I want to find a witch boyfriend. Yeah, but not all of them are good like him. Like the druid that I had the confrontation with this morning on Facebook would not, in my opinion, make a good partner for anyone. So, there's that. Because, and most of the men actually in our community that have come around and started to participate in what we're doing, most of them turned out to be raging a-holes. It's just bizarre. So a good person who's an open-minded individual and isn't trying to convert you to something other than what you are and likes you for who you are is the main criteria. And maybe, if you're lucky, they'll be magical too. So Alice says, what are some practical ways to protect yourself from negative energy or spirits? Well, jewelry that you can wear, that you can take with you, that you can put on. Bracelets are really good for that. I often use bracelets. So I have bracelets of different kinds of stones. I've got black tourmaline. I've got, what's it called? Silver sheen obsidian. I have some ruby matrix stones. I have a black spinel bracelet, which is broken and I have to fix to help repel negative energy when I go out into shopping centers or stores or whatever, where I'm going to meet a whole bunch of people that I'm not familiar with and I don't know for sure who they are and what they're going to be like. And that'll keep things from attaching to you as well. Doing that kind of stuff. And the best way to protect yourself from negative spirits is to be energetically positive. Doesn't mean denying reality, it just means boosting your own energetic levels up to the point where you're connecting more with the universal life force energy. And I find that negative entities are not attracted to that kind of energy at all. It's sort of like they find it icky. They don't like the taste or the flavor of that kind of energy. And that can be a good natural defense. So meditation, working on yourself, becoming a more grounded and complete individual and self-aware and so forth is probably one of your best defenses for any of that stuff.
Yeah, the more your personal aura is cleaned up and stuff, the more the negative forces will have difficulty even approaching.
So writer says, that's all I want and all I ask from the other, that I get to be me. If they start mocking or putting that down, it ends there and then, which is smart. That would be a big red flag, especially for a witch. We have a friend of ours who's clearly a pagan who married a Mormon woman, and they were able to actually make it work. I wasn't sure how that happened, that they could make that work. And she has her Jesus pictures on the wall, and he has his pagan gods on the wall, and they respect one another's paths and boundaries, and they don't try to convert one another to whatever they're doing. And I don't know how many kids they have now, since it's been a while since we've seen them. But they have children together, and as far as I know, they're still in a relationship. I haven't heard anything otherwise. And so mutual respect is probably the most key component to a healthy relationship, is respecting the other person and finding someone. You don't have to be completely emotionally well in order for that to work. I wasn't, he wasn't.
I wasn't, for
when
sure.
we met. But that mutual respect and acceptance of the other, it leaves room for each of them to change. And both of us have changed a lot since we got together. It's been 30 years, 31 years? No, 30 years this year, since we met. And so, it's like, we grow individually and we grow as a couple simultaneously.
Right, and we don't hinder each other's growth, and that's another one of those things that causes lots of problems with relationships at times.
Well, people get unhappy and unsatisfied if they can't be themselves. Yeah. Even if they can pretend to be something else for a period of time, that kind of always breaks down eventually.
Yeah.
And then your relationship is based on a lie, and that was one of the other things. It's like, if you can't be yourself and be true to who you are at the beginning, then you'll never be able to do it later without breaking up the relationship, because then the relationship is based upon who they thought you were or who you pretended to be. And that goes for both parties. And that's one of the issues I think we have in society, is that when people first get together, it's like putting their best foot forward, making sure that the other person likes them, trying to be as attractive as they can in order to lure someone closer and then see what they've got. If we started off with, this is who I am, and they went like, ew, they're like, okay, next, because how can anything work without a true foundation? And that works for everything. I mean, the Golden Dawn destroyed itself because it started on a lie. And because its entire foundation was based upon a lie, which they probably didn't even have to tell. They could have made the Golden Dawn without telling that lie, and it probably would still be going. When the lie came to light, like all lies do, it was utterly destroyed.
Well, just to that, I want to add that the Golden Dawn is back. I assume they've changed some of their rituals. I haven't been back into it, but there is a Golden Dawn you can find nowadays if you want.
Yeah, the new reformed
the original,
Golden
yeah,
Dawn.
the original.
This is the original
one.
Golden Dawn we're talking
Yeah.
about, not the reformed, renewed one or whatever.
Yeah.
But since the lie was already out, they didn't start that on a lie. They already had the truth was out there for all to see in its great ugliness. But yeah, it was kind of interesting. So Hyperion says, my grandpa owned and preserved a lot of his land. I miss that. His cows and sheep made trails when they ate grass. Yeah, animal trails can be fun to follow. Desert Autumn says, love the Australian fruit bats. Flying foxes, the babies are so damn cute. They're so big, though. They really are. I've seen them with people.
Are
it's
they?
Like, yes.
Oh.
Yeah. The fox bat
Okay, I didn't
thing.
know that.
They're pretty good size.
Cool.
Alice, how about incense? Mia says. Alice says, I've always wanted a raven. They're so intelligent. But it's illegal unless you import a certain species from Africa, I think. And that could be a lot. Yeah. Desert Autumn says, I agree. There's a lot of animals that's illegal to have now. And a lot of times people don't know it. So.
Yeah, it wouldn't occur to me for a raven. I mean, it's obvious I can see issues if you want to own a lion or
a cougar.
Which
isn't illegal.
Yeah.
Ironically. It's like, what?
Yeah.
But yeah. Desert Autumn says, vegan sky puppies. Yes. That's pretty cute. Hyperion says, I have 2 raven friends that say hello a lot. I call them Noonin and Moonin. Oh, after Odin's ravens. I bet there's a lot of ravens that get called that.
There's a Hugin and Moonin for Odin's.
Noonin and Moonin. It's Hugin and...
Hugin.
Hugin and...
Munin.
Moonin. Hugin and Moonin, not Noonin and Moonin. Okay, well, you got close.
Well, I don't know that that's wrong either, but that's just the ones what I've always heard.
Philippa says, we don't have ravens where I am. I'm so jealous. You are really lucky. Alice says that Hyperion, that's precious. Do you say it back? Desron says, thank you for advice about the house protection with the battery. You're welcome. Writer says, and it occurred to me the heart of a good man these days is hard to find. Phil Collins, yeah. Hyperion says, I give them French fries. I lost my place.
So bribery got it.
So bribery. Thank you for the response, you guys. I keep that in mind. Philippi says, I have Jesus and pagan deities. Yeah, you're a combination on your own. So, way to go, being able to figure out how to make these two things work together. Doesn't Gerard says, another spiritual protection is compassion. Hard to think about when stuff's flying around, but still.
That's true, and Barden actually mentions one for a protection by cosmic love, where I guess people just love you so much they can't harm you.
Sometimes being the unexpected, innocently unexpected, definitely. I mean, when I was a kid, there was this story about this young girl who got a ride with a guy who was like a serial killer, I think, and and he was taking her away, you know, from her home. He was taking her to do this horrific whatever with her, and she says, "You can't harm me because I'm protected by the Virgin Mary." And he looked at her. He says, "I didn't realize that," and he took her home and dropped her off. So, you know, sometimes that works. I wouldn't count on it, but what the heck. Hyperion says, haven't seen them since, honestly. She landed in front of me and bowed, and I haven't seen her since. Doing raven things, probably. Desert Rom says, Chris Rock says, the first 2 months of any relationship, you're dealing with representative. Unless you're in a real relationship with real people, I guess that would be true. Hyperion says, we all love you, Ian.
Well, I love you all too back. All back. As much as I can without knowing any of you really, but yes.
Yeah.
You know, I think
true.
this is a great group here, and I appreciate all the participation and everybody chipping in all the time, and yeah, it's one of the highlights every week.
Yeah.
I mean,
we enjoy it. We never know what we're going to talk about, and it's always interesting and keeps us on our toes. Well, flying fox babies are pretty tiny, though. Well, yeah, they would be. They're babies. About to speak of somebody's hand. People who do animal rehabilitation get to foster some really incredible animals, yeah. And they learned a heck of a lot because of the fact that, you know, they've learned so much more about animals. They've actually learned a lot about people and their nervous systems and how our nervous systems learn and so forth through touch rather than through the brain wiring. We're much more tactilely programmed than like a brain as a computer and then makes all these connections. It's not really that way. It's kind of the opposite in reality. So it's kind of interesting. So I'm glad. And I love seeing the videos of the people who rescue animals. If I see one of those, I almost always have to share it, but I always have to watch it. It says, do you have pets? Not right now. Our cats passed, and we just decided we weren't in a place to be responsible caretakers at the moment. And now we do have a bunny rabbit.
And we have 4 cats that come in our yard all the time that are plenty pettable. So we have what do you call it? Substitute
neighbor pets,
yeah.
Other people's pets like our yard.
Yep.
And then my granddaughter has a bunny, and in the evenings she brings her bunny out into the living room and it runs around trying to find out how to get out of the living room. And she's making sure it can't get out of the living room because she's not sure where it might go.
It's really small and it's cute. It's adult, but it's just a small...
It's a small little black bunny. It's pretty adorable. And it will let us pet it. So we like that. We like petting things. Hyperion says, free to be. Oh, sorry for your cat. Yeah. I've had cats my entire life. This is, I think, the first time I've not had a cat living with me.
Yeah, that was... Yeah, I have some issues with us not being able to take care of a pet properly, mostly due to lack of money at this point, so...
Yeah, Felipa says you have all the benefits of the cats without the food and the vet bills.
Yep.
Yes, and we like to be responsible
caretakers. Those vet bills.
Vet bills are expensive. So yeah, that happens. But hey, Yeah, can't believe it's been an hour and 25 minutes.
I had a kitty I was really attached to. Her name was Jasmine. She was a great cat. First animal I've ever thoroughly bonded to.
Yeah, he wasn't allowed to have pets when he was a kid, so he didn't get that experience like I did. And I think that having a pet helps to develop empathy. That's one of the things pets are good for, because you're thinking about something other than yourself, and trying to understand what it's doing and why it's doing that and so forth. So unless of course you're a sociopath, in which case having a pet's probably not good for the pet. Or it might be just for show, to make you appear to be empathic. Because, sociopaths being what they are, not so great.
They sure can fake it well.
They sure can fake it well. It's hard to believe that so many people are sociopaths. 1 in 25. 4% of the population. That seems way too many people, but, oh well.
So if anybody has any other questions or subjects, now's the time.
Yeah, since we got 4 minutes left.
How much?
4 minutes.
Oh.
I'm at an hour and 26.
Oh. Huh. My clock is off then.
Well,
And
maybe
why, I don't know.
because I got on before everybody else by 50 seconds. I don't know.
No, I mean my clock on my computer is off. It says we have 10 minutes left.
Oh.
It says it's 3:21 now.
Well, this is from the time we started. We always start just before 2 o'clock.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Felipa says, I'm the same and would love another cat, but I'm very allergic. Had cats since I was a kid, but the allergy is too bad now. Considering a hairless cat, but we'll still get allergy tests.
Yeah, that was one of those things with me too. I'm allergic to cats. As far as their hair and stuff, the dander and yeah.
But those hairless cats look so weird.
I just like them too. I just like cats too much though. I never can resist it. So the allergy takes second place over the
animal.
beastie usually. Yep.
Yeah, it really depends upon exactly how many, how many antihistamines you need to take.
And my sweetie can tell you I have some allergies.
Oh. And his sneezes are legendary.
Legendarily loud.
Yes, they are. Mia says, when have you started practice witchcraft? Well, I probably started practicing it before I knew what a practice was when I was in my 20s. That's when, as a teenager, back again, I started doing tarot in high school, so in freshman year in high school, so 1964. I would consider that a pretty basic practice beginning kind of thing, is learning the tarot. So I guess that would be an official-ish kind of part. The paranormal stuff was before that, though, before the tarot. So yeah, it's kind of interesting.
I'm sorry, Ryder. That's like the worst way to lose a cat.
Oh, a cruel person. Oh, I hate that. I hope they ended badly.
No, fictional characters becoming egregores is a cool subject.
Oh, the idea of that's the group mind spirit or what have you.
Right, so that's exactly what you would have, like the Doctor Strange character. Yeah.
Could be an egregore kind of thing.
Well, we know it was in the past, and I don't know how the new version of Doctor Strange will go, but I love Benedict Cumberbatch's
portrayal
so.
of the strange.
Yep. That's pretty awesome.
It is true. It is a good subject, though. Yep. And I certainly have had my encounters, thought forms, etc., going on.
So.
All right, well, I guess it's time to say goodbye, everybody, and write in any questions you might have. So whatever you guys want to talk about next, maybe we should talk about fictional characters becoming egregores. Ryder says, at Felipa, I know I'm trying not to think about it. I'm starting to tear up now. I'm sorry, Ryder. It's a sad thing. I don't like that kind of stuff myself. So have some love from us for your heart. Definitely.
Yeah.
Bye all. Thank you for being here. Yeah, I say the same. Like Ian said, it's the highlight of our week. We really enjoyed chatting with you guys, and Thank you for this evening. It's been lovely to join in, and thank you for the love. You're welcome. Okay, guys, so I don't know why my thing didn't work over here like it did before.